Now the lightning round, where we look at all the unusual topics of the week. We're here with Bill Rosenberg. He's a professor from Drexel University. Tom LaVecchia has joined us as well, and Albert Goldson is with us as well. Some strange stuff. You can't go a week without some wacky stuff happening. This big controversy about Starbucks not putting enough Christmas on their Christmas cup, just a red cup. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
You're in marketing and branding, so you tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, so from the marketing and branding perspective, they tried to make it as festive as possible, and it really kind of missed the mark. I don't think Christians were that offended. If anything, there's a lot of memes out there on social media talking about how them not being offended. But they kind of really missed their mark on this one, and probably should have did a little bit more research before launching that particular creative.
Who sat in that meeting and said, look, we'll just make the cup red? I mean, somebody had to say that.
More than likely, it was probably the internal team with some outside marketers. They probably tested it to an extent, but they just missed their mark. And
testing just a red cup? It doesn't really say anything except red.
But one of the things you need to realize, though, is this is part of the sort of the diversity and inclusion movement in the world today.
Agreed.
Yeah. So what happens is, by saying Merry Christmas, you really are, for the dominant political culture, resonating very well. If you're not part of that culture, it may not be something that you want to see or hear. So why do we go to Happy Holidays,
Bill, we grew up with the Happy Holidays covering everything.
Okay, so what happens is each one of those is a step down. And I think in large part, there probably weren't too many non-Christians in the room who basically could speak up for the other side. And I think that was probably a failing of the research.
But would you have complained, well, first of all, would you have known the cup was red because it's the holidays? Or maybe you just got a red cup?
Red is a dominant color in the holidays.
Would you have complained if it said Happy Holidays on it?
Absolutely not. I mean, there are so many different holidays that are occurring during this time, so it could refer to any one of many holidays.
Isn't that the default mechanism?
Pretty much.
So you don't insult any particular... Now, you're in branding. Why not just Happy Holidays? Would you have recommended Happy Holidays?
I would just recommend Happy Holidays, keep it simple, and more agnostic color, and call it a day.
Yeah. And now, of course, Dunkin' Donuts has jumped into the fray, and they're saying we're going to have the cup the right way, and now there's a cup controversy.
Yep. Well, it's all, again, PR, marketing, and it's creating a buzz. That's why we're talking about it. That's what they want.
Somebody in that meeting said, let's just make the cup red.
That they goofed, yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about a more serious issue. We had several cases in the New York metropolitan area where helicopter pilots, were being hit with lasers, which can temporarily blind them, put everybody in danger, not only the pilot, but in some cases, a commercial jet, the entire crew and passengers. This continues. They caught this gentleman because the helicopter actually hovered over and said he's here, and the cops found him. But how do you enforce that? How can you possibly find somebody who shoots a laser at an airliner with any definitive nature? You really can't find that person.
Well, one of the things I think, when I saw those stories, first of all, it's a terrible thing to do. I think that in a more technological world, it is easier and easier to find these people because there's GPS locations on the aircraft, so you know the general vicinity. But I think I hearken back to the idea about these people who are pyromaniacs, okay? Right. They want to create a problem. They want to go burn a building so they can see the flame. And I think that's a lot of what's going on with these lasers. Correct. It's an antisocial behavior, and I think the people need to be caught and they need to be seriously punished.
That's a very good analogy, creating a problem. So many people start, or arsonists start fire and then show up at the scene and save somebody in the building. You're a pilot.
Well, again, it's a very dangerous situation.
What does it do when you get a laser beam in the cockpit?
Well, what happens is you can be, your vision is seriously compromised. And you're already on a tremendous stress because at that point, because when the lasers hit you, basically you're on an approach for landing. Right. And you already have tremendous duties to do. So in that way, I believe the punishment for that crime should be elevated much higher simply because it's a public safety issue.
Right. Has that ever happened to you?
No, it hasn't. Thank goodness.
Friends, colleagues, that has happened to you? So it doesn't happen with great frequency, but when it does, it's really dangerous. Correct. And for the life of me, and you brought something out with interesting, I don't know why people do it, but maybe they need this need to be, have this need to be noticed and so on. Let's talk about the big case in New York City today. I'm sure you saw the movie over the years, Goodfellas, in which the Lufthansa heist happened back in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, and they finally found somebody they thought was involved in this case. They had a lot of people testifying against him with shady backgrounds, and as a result, the government lost that case, and this man goes free, whether he was involved or not. Your thoughts on that case?
Yeah, I actually follow this case. I'm an Italian-American, and my family's from Italy, so we kind of dealt with this kind of stuff growing up. But in Vincent Assaro's case, he had his cousin who actually testified against him. And the guy was, don't get me wrong, they're all bad people, especially in that world, but this guy was even worse. So I don't think the government did a great job at pinning this actual crime on Vincent and Sorrow. The other part is, at this point, all the witnesses are dead in terms of who actually committed the crime, as you watch, similar to the movie. So I guess the only good witness is a dead witness, right? So he got off because it wasn't
as an Italian American, I concur. I think too many of us are brushed with this stroke of, we're somehow connected to the mob. And when I travel, I often get that, and I object to it, and I let them know. But putting that issue aside, why did the government spend all this money on this particular case when they didn't have a good case?
Because they thought they were going to get a conviction, and it was something that was out there for a really long period of time. The reality is that the finding wasn't that he didn't have anything to do with it. It's just that they couldn't prove it. Okay, so that's really where it comes down.
But the lawyers must have known going into the case.
Well,
we have
a sexy case. That
but once you start down that path and you think you can get a conviction, it's going to be hard to hold that train back, particularly because it's such a big event. Obviously, they would like to have done something, but the reporting that I saw about the case recently was that the public knows a lot about this case. Not only was there a movie, but there's extensive documentation, and this guy was not a good guy, and he was probably involved, but you can't prove it. And I think that's one of the processes that goes on in our political system. That we have a policy that you're innocent until proven guilty, and he had to be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, and he happens to luck out on this one. I think that's what we have to
Albert, without the movie, do they even do this? I mean, the movie really brought that
well,
hope.
they need the movie and they need the plane. We're still on aircraft, Lufthansa, heist. The movie, it's high profile, and the case itself, the charges they brought against him are it's quite complicated, and the laws are written in such a complicated way that the defense lawyers can easily poke holes in it, and the jury can basically claim that they don't have enough evidence to
And I also think it's a sexy case when you go after
Major
a mobster.
sexy case, yeah.
Especially in the New York metropolitan area. It gets a lot of press and so on and so forth. Gentlemen, I want to thank you. You are officially members of the lightning round. So give yourself a pat on the back. Thanks for joining us on Fresh Outlook. Till next time, I'm Frank Cipolla. You have a great week. We'll see you again.